Okay, doing the rear pads on a 2003 diesel Jetta wagon. Alright, to get the hubs off, I use a 17. You need your special tool for this one right here. It's the only one that has that, your locking hub. And I usually like to use this sucker, combination of the two, to get those lug nuts off. And first things first, get these things out, and it's probably a really easy tool to get these things out, but you know what? I don't have the tool, so I use a combination of this and this. It's probably an easier way to do this. If you know what it is, let me know. Oh, by the way, these are the gloves I'm using to keep my hands clean. That way I don't have messy fingernails. Alright, once I loosened the lugs enough, I just jacked the car up just as much as I needed to. And I always pull this out because I have a little extra safety. I always place the wheel like that so I don't scratch up my my rims, and I keep it nice and close because I tend to use it as a seat. Alright, the piece for loosening is this piece right here. It's a 13. There is a nut right here. That's a 15 millimeter. There's the 13, and you take these off. There's one on top, there's one on the bottom of the caliper. And that's all you have to remove to get this piece off. And here's the caliper ready to come off. And you should just pull right off, but you know, you might need a little extra wiggle in here. So let me turn the camera. Okay. Caliper's off. It's off to the right there. It's right here. And as you can see, this piece remains on. It makes it really easy because those pads right there, the new ones, just slide right in. They slide in, you know, here and on the back end of this. It's pretty easy. And then after you depress the caliper piston, right in there, the whole caliper just slides back in over it. The key, of course, is the caliper piston, and that's why we bought this from Harbor Freight Tools, which is a disc brake caliper tool set. Now, what happens is this piece here fits right into the caliper and compresses and turns clockwise. Alright. So, this is the way it is in two pieces. And this has to be on top of here, so you have to slide this over this, down like that, and then it's like that. See? And then this, the thing I'm not happy with is there's a pin right here that holds this piece in place. This pin has already slid out on me. Look at that. That's terrible. First day of use. But it's not that much of an issue because I slide the collar all the way down when I'm putting it into place. Between this piece, and this piece, there's enough width that it's not too much of an issue for me. But it could be an issue, and you know, I'll probably have to return this to get a new one, or figure out a better pin system in there. All right, now here's the whole assembly in place with only two hands. I'm going to try and show you this. This piece goes in here in the caliper, and then there's that piece the disc I was holding up. It locks in place. You can kind of see the pin right there. And then here's the rest of the assembly, right? So what ends up happening is you turn this clockwise, and it turns the piston clockwise, depressing it back into the caliper. So this is the piston right here, and what's going to happen is I'm going to turn this clockwise. This is going to depress. Alright, so watch. So you turn it a couple times. It's not easy. Not easy at all. Alright, there it goes. It's turning a little bit. But then every time you turn it, you have to make sure that this piece, you turn this piece counterclockwise, because you have to have that tension. Because what's happening is you're turning it clockwise and it's going in, and then you have to turn this counterclockwise to get the tension. And you could use a wrench. I think it's a 19mm, but usually by hand it'll work. At first it's going to be a little difficult, and it was before on the other one. But eventually it'll start to get a little easier. And again, just turn this counterclockwise. So for just about every, eighth of a turn, you're compensating by backing this thing out. It's a slow process, it's a pain in the neck, but it eventually gets it done. There's a couple other products I'm using. I'm using these brakes I bought at AutoZone, and I thought I would try this stuff, this brake lubricant that I've placed here on because the brake pads will rub back and forth on this part, here and here, and then I'll put some on the caliper head. Make sure you have the brake pad part forward, and then basically it just slides. Let's see, get some little perspective here. In, just like that. And they slide all the way forward. You can see it right into place.
Refrigerator.
Yeah, that's where I usually put them. And there they are, new brake pads. And then the caliper just slides right into place. What happens now is I push the caliper in place, and then I put this one back in. This is kind of springy right here. This is the 15, by the way. Don't forget that's the 13. And then same thing up top. Alright, you can kind of see. Well, this is in, so it won't spring back and forth. But if this is out, there's a spring there. So this one goes in. This one goes in. You can see the springs from the brake pad right there. Alright, there's my caliper, fully depressed. Alright, so that the brake pads fit, and that's basically all there is to it once you tighten that and that up. Alright, the wheel's back on. How did my gloves fare? I'm right-handed, so you have to expect that these are going to get a little more abuse. Not so great. I got a couple of fingers that are exposed, but for the most part, not too bad. I mean, if you look at my left hand, no, not compromised at all. If I take off the glove, alright, so I got the white powdery residue on my fingernails, but there's no grease underneath them, and that's the important part. So if you have a date later on in the evening with your significant other, at least you may be a backyard mechanic, but you won't necessarily look like one. Those fingers didn't fare so well, but they could be worse. And as you can see, my hands, not too bad. This will come off pretty easily. My hands are so wet from the gloves, you can see that they're already getting pretty clean just by rubbing them. So not too bad. Wheels back on. I just have to pump those brakes, make sure everything's set properly, seated properly. And of course, tools. And of course, tools all back where they belong. And clean, you should clean them as well. And that's it. So you don't lose anything. These tools will all go back where they belong as well. And that's it.